My name is Her Majesty, Queen Mother, Dowoti Desir, Houna II. My title as Queen Mother is not directly related to my role as a priest. I am the Queen Mother of a royal palace in Benin, which is located in West Africa. It is a political position that I hold, where I do influence the lives of people, especially women. And as Queen Mother, my relationship with His Majesty Dada, Dagbo Houna II, who is my partner in this matter, we do take decisions together that are shaping a bigger community. However, because my partner is the Supreme Chief of Voodoo, my relationship in the bigger Voodoo community is, let me put it this way, still being defined. And it's still being defined because in 500 years there has not been a Queen Mother. I am the first person from the Americas to assume that role in Benin, and that role with this specific family, the Hounons, and someone who holds this position as the Supreme Chief of Voodoo. Some people say that makes me the Queen Mother of the Voodoo community. Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. As a Mambo Asobwe, which is a high priest in Haitian Voodoo, I am a healer. I do settle disputes. I do help people heal themselves, not just in that social sense, but metaphysically, physically, spiritually. So that role, no one can dispute, because I say, I'm a priest, I'm a priest, I'm a priest. End of discussion. My role as a high priest it means, first of all, that I'm not just initiated and consecrated, but I'm ordained. My position is no different from a rabbi or a kohen or any other religious leader. We do the same things. Our task at the end of the day is to help create a sense of community for people, is to help them find harmony and obtain balance in their own lives. It is for us to help maintain balance in the larger community as well, and to be an intermediary between the communities of the living and the communities of the dead. The point is to act as a kind of intermediary between the spirit realm and this realm as well. In a way, we become the spokespersons of the Loi, of the Voodoo. The Loi, the Voodoo, the Orisha, the Inkisi. These are various terms that are used to describe some of the spiritual forces that exist in the universe. Forces of nature, elements that abide by earth, fire, water, air. It is our role as priests to be in contact with these energies and to harness them, if you will, and bring them to bear in the larger community, so that we are operating in the best state of mind, spiritually, mentally, physically, and otherwise. I started kicking and screaming. I started kicking and screaming. I say that in two senses. One is, in our traditions, we believe that you make an agreement, you have a contract, essentially a prenatal contract with the divine, with Olodumare, with the Most High, with the good God, with Bon Dieu. You have a contract to be whatever it is that you are, okay? In my case, it was a priest. And it wasn't just any priest, but a very specific kind of priest. And so that's the decision that I made. You know, you're born into the world, they hit you, and you're kicking and screaming. So kicking and screaming in the sense that I'm born that way. But also kicking and screaming because, you know, one of the challenges that people of African descent face in the Americas, but elsewhere too, but we're going to stick with the Americas, is because of how we arrived here, also kicking and screaming, on slave ships. We arrived, many of us, most of us forcibly arrived in the Americas. And enslavement meant not only our physical bondage, but it meant taking away all kinds of elements of our space. It wasn't just our physical space, it was our emotional spaces, our linguistic spaces, our cultural spaces, our spiritual spaces became constrained and confined, and the intent was to eliminate and erase all of that. And so what we find happening is that as a result of this cultural genocide, essentially, many of the things that we would know, like I should have known as a child that I was intended to be a priest. My community should have been preparing me my entire life for that. But again, because of this horrific experience, the Ma'afa, the transatlantic slave trade, much of that was erased and taken away. And as a result, you fast forward to someone like me who grew up middle class, going to Western schools, Western, I put that in quotations, receiving a more Eurocentric education, if you will. And even in my own household, where I grew up, familiar with Black intellectuals and creative people from throughout the African diaspora. I'm a Pan-Africanist. There is still a crisis, an intellectual crisis that one experiences going to Eurocentric schools. And that is this issue of not seeing yourself, not knowing what your cultural and your, what kind of world patrimony you have. And so you don't know things about yourself. And in my case, I grew up in a very contradictory space. I went to Catholic school for a while. My mother wanted me to be Catholic. My father, on the other hand, was an atheist. And so I had both of these things going on. And at one point I made a decision where I didn't believe not only in Christianity, I didn't believe in God as well. And then at some point, you know, again, because I remember I said, there's a contract that we have. I'm in breach of my contract. My contract was to be a priest. The Loi, the Voodoo, these spirits came to me in my dreams. They told me things, they taught me things. They even warned me about my having to pay attention, my need to be more mindful of what is around me, of who is around me, of what I know. And I also realized I knew things that, how was I supposed to know these things? I had no conscious knowledge of this. This was information that was somehow buried inside of me. It's genetic memory. And that's what was sort of kicking and screaming within me to be birthed, to be brought into the world in a very conscious and deliberate way. You have to evaluate who and what is around you, what is going on, why is it happening, how are things unfolding, and you have to take action. And so in my case, I realized I was surrounded by priests, mostly in the Lukumi community, Afro-Cubans, some Ifa priests, and I eventually met voodoo priests as well, and began asking questions, and in the process of asking questions and and getting the answers to what I needed, even if I didn't understand what was being said or why things were happening. I understood I had to surrender to this and to this process, if you will, these metaphysical changes, and use the people around me, allow myself to be used by them, and give myself permission to be their students, if you will, so that I could go through the process of initiation and learning more about spirit, letting spirit know that I was ready to receive them and work with spirit, to be their instrument, and to eventually be ordained as a priest.